Hey, I can't hear you. I can't
How's
hear
it,
you.
how's it going
There you
today, my
are.
man?
There you are.
How you doing today, Larry?
Good, buddy.
Larry, this week has been so crazy that I had to try to get you back on here to make some type of sense of what's going on. What is going before we talk about the attack on the nuclear power station and the well, I see as an act of war. What is going on with the Iranian Israeli thing? Because we see that you have Western reports saying that Iran is looking for a way out, which I believe that that is just Western reporting. But
Yeah.
where
Now,
where where do we stand right now with the reprisal from Iran on Israel?
Uh, did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
No, I've never
Did you ever?
seen that.
Okay. So in one of the seasons, there's an episode where uh, there's this big trial going on, and they got all the bad people assembled up in this one building, and beneath that building is uh, these explosives. It's presented like green gas, but it's basically explosive. And this one soldier has run down and he's been stabbed in the leg, and so he's crawling because he can see at the end where all these explosives. There's a candle burning, and the candle's burning down, and there's a down and down, and as soon as it hits, it's going to explode. That's where we're at. Okay, that candle is just about touching the nitroglycerin, and it'll go off at any moment.
Mhm.
Right now the news are reporting it's the Wall Street Journal is saying Israel has put its military on high alert, observing preparations by Iran and Hezbollah to carry out attacks. Well, Hezbollah has been carrying out attacks on Israel for the last 10 months. you
Mhm.
know, with respect to this particular war. Um, Iran, though, Iran's going to do something. I don't know when, but the comment you made, that it's been reported in the media that Iran's looking for a way out. That is coming directly from the U.S. intelligence community. Uh, they they have their heads stuck up in the nether regions. Let's put it that way. That's a nice way to say it. Uh, but that's what they really believe. They've convinced themselves that Iran is weak. Iran is afraid, and that Iran's looking for a way out. So um, that's what they believe. That's what they're telling the policymakers, and the policymakers are believing it, and they're telling it to the media. The media's believing it. So when Iran strikes and knocks the stuffing out of Israel, because they're going to hit them, and they're going to hit them hard, and they're going to hit them in a way that Israel does not believe. It's gonna it's gonna set off a real uproar in Washington and around the world. And then at that point, you're looking at a potential real escalation in this war.
Mhm.
Uh, So, yeah, no, it's uh, as they say, the pucker factor is high nowadays.
Well, it seems like this thing will quickly reach regional proportion because now you have the United States deploying nuclear powered assets to the Mediterranean with the submarines. She's deploying carrier groups. This does not seem as if it is to prevent war. This seems that this is to, in the event of a reprisal, this is to escalate into war.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, what do you believe that even with America's help, that Israel could be successful? I mean, Iran has regional dominance and regional escalatory dominance. So why, especially at a time when America's economy is collapsing, she's trying to pivot to Asia, and at the same time, she's getting the brakes beat off of her in Ukraine. Why would she deploy assets to the Mediterranean to try to confront Iran, especially when Israel is the one that's out of pocket?
Yeah, well, there is this widespread belief in the West that Iran is the cause of all these problems in the Middle East. If we just get rid of Iran, yeah, all of our problems will be over. Happy days are here again. I mean, come on. That's that takes stupidity to a new low. Um, what's we're in a situation. Uh, imagine this is like Muhammad Ali at the end of his career. There was a time where you got in the ring with that man, you were going to go out, feet first. Okay, he was going to put you down. But there came a time where he could no longer fight.
Mhm.
And we know he was probably suffering early stages of Parkinson's disease, but couldn't fight and we got get beat. I think there are a lot of countries in the Middle East that still think that the United States is like Muhammad Ali in his prime.
Mhm.
And what they're going to find out is that just as happened with Ali, we gotten fat and old, you know, and we can't fight like we was. I mean, look at the Houthis. We've put a carrier task force group there in the Red Sea to stop the Houthis, and basically they kicked our ass. Uh, you know, we didn't stop them. We bombed them a lot. Couldn't stop them. There were reports yesterday that two of the U.S. Destroyers, one of them,
Mhm.
the USS Cole, which I thought, boy, there's a blast from the past, literally, because the Cole was the one that was targeted by Osama bin Laden's Al Qaeda members off the coast of Yemen back in 1999, 2000. I guess it was 2000, October 2000. So, hey, it's back to Yemen. That ship when it gets around Yemen, man, it's like a bullet magnet, I think. So, um, they're agitating for this war, and Iran has a lot of capabilities, especially since it's aligned with Russia. They've got a much deeper military relationship that has developed over the last 10 years, and it got serious 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when they started planning for, and then in 2019 actually did an exercise, a joint military exercise with the Chinese. So part of what's been going on over the last 2 weeks, Russia's been sending in. This is my belief. I can't prove it, but the movement of the aircraft are consistent with this. That Russia has deployed air defense systems, including probably the S-400. They could have gone as high as the S-500. These are anti-ballistic missile defense systems. So they're capable of shooting down an Israeli ballistic missile carrying a nuclear warhead, number one. Number two, they've got electronic warfare equipment in place as well. Then the Russians have sent crews to actually operate those systems, those weapon systems. Uh, the Iranians will work alongside them, but at least they got Russians to know, where the start button is and where the steering wheel is. What you need to do to aim it and drive it.
Mhm.
So that creates a different kind of potential threat. I think Russia has been counseling Iran not to go, whole hog in whipping up on Israel. But I think we can be confident of one thing: Iran is going to hit Israel and give it more than a bloody nose.
Mhm. What would be America's reaction? Because we heard Lindsey Graham saying that they should pass a law saying that if Iran attacks, quote unquote, even though we know that this will be a reprisal or a counterattack, that if Iran attacks um, Israel, the United States should declare war on
Yeah,
Israel. I mean Iran. That's insane.
yeah, but hey, that is Lindsey Graham. You know, he just the man ain't right. This. if the United States decides to start launching aerial, look, all we can do is launch aerial attacks, either with a fixed wing aircraft or a cruise missile or some ballistic missile. Well, if we do that, that's an act of war against Iran on our part. And so then this is going to escalate because Iran's got two big brothers, Russia and China. And I think, frankly, a lot of the world's just getting sick and tired of, the bullying of the United States. That you reach a stage where you watch a bully constantly abusing and hitting people, and you get madder and madder and madder until finally, man, you break out in rage and you go flatten the dude. That's what's going to happen in the United States, I believe. We're going to get flattened because we keep sticking our nose in places where we shouldn't, or when we do stick our nose in, we're not trying to bring about peace. We're trying to stir things up, trying to promote a fight.
But well, Larry, why aren't the politicians and the military leaders thinking in such a way of saying, "Hey, the more we act in this belligerent way and purposely and openly flaunting international law to preserve Israel in the Middle East, the more we are alienating ourselves and reducing our political capital with other nations."
Yeah. Well, have you ever dealt with a drug addict?
Yeah.
Okay. There's your answer. I mean, really, you can say you haven't tried rationally to a drug addict who's strung out on heroin or meth or whatever. And tell him, man, stop taking this stuff. It's killing you. Number one, and it's preventing you from doing what you're capable of doing. It's denying you a better life. Yeah, man. Yeah, and then they keep doing it till they die. That's what the United States is doing. We are hooked on that drug called war. And it's what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Well, positioning. Before
Yeah,
we
we
go,
gotta play some Edwin Starr there, brother.
hey, before we position this to Russia and Ukraine, one more thing about the Middle East. We see African nations shaking off the shackles of colonialism and neo-colonialism,
Yeah,
and we see the Yemeni nation standing strong against the attacks by Britain, the United States, and other nations. With that said, why isn't the Western press reporting these things, especially on the blatant violation of international law when it comes to those African nations and when it comes to the Yemeni nation?
it's sad to be lazy and stupid, but that's the rest of that's the Western press. I mean, good God, like you said, Helen Keller could see some of this stuff taking place, and she was deaf, dumb, and blind. But I mean, you're right. This is. I keep talking about this. We're witnessing the emergence of a new world order. The old world order is dying right around us, and we always like to think that historical events take place like a TV show, where there's an opening credit, and then you got the opening scene, and then there's always the conclusion, the end, where I solve the case. That it's always announced. History doesn't work that way. It's not like when the Roman Empire fell. Some dude didn't climb up on a wall with a script and go, "Attention, attention! The Roman Empire is now officially ended today. It's all over." That didn't happen. What we're witnessing is the end of the U.S. empire. And one of the symptoms is when these different countries in Africa go, "You know what? I'm getting off this plantation. I'm not staying. No, I ain't picking your cotton no more."
That's right.
I mean, that's exactly what's happening. They and think about it. For the years that Western corporations have been involved in Africa, the exploit. We like to blame it. Oh, they're corrupt. They're this. They're that. Meanwhile, we're extracting the wealth out of those countries, and we're not there to make sure that they are building up the infrastructure, educating the children, making sure the people are, not creating opportunities for the people. We're taking care of ourselves and screw them. Well, now enter China and Russia, and China and Russia have a different approach. It's not about saying, man, um, there's a joke in Hollywood that's applicable to this, and they're Hollywood agents are notorious for taking advantage of people. And these two agents are sitting there, and here walks by a beautiful woman, and the one guy says, "Boy, I'd like to screw her," and the other one goes, "Out of what?" So you know, and that's what when the West sees these countries is, well, how can we take advantage of them? How can we use them? Not how can we enable them? How can we help make them better? How can we be partners? And that's so the United States has now gotten play. The only stories you're hearing is about we're threatening you with sanctions. We're conducting a color revolution. We're doing some sort of covert operation to try to toss you out or change your government, or we're going to go to war with you. Man, that's this is like a rapist writing a book on how to date women. Okay.
Um, one of the channel members wanted to ask you a question before we get to this Russia thing. Medi asked, um, it's a two-part question. He says, question, do you think part of the drive behind the Western elite is the fear of BRICS and the possibility it forms its own human rights tribunal in regards to Ukraine?
I don't think the West fears BRICS yet. They haven't awakened to its reality. They keep dismissing, that's nothing. I mean, I'm in a weekly conversation with a group of pretty high powered investors. I don't know how I got in the group, but that's a whole other story. But they, when I bring up BRICS, they go, BRICS. This is meaningless. They act like the French do when they're dealing with a foreigner who doesn't speak good French. They just say, "Spit on you," They don't take it seriously. But I think it does touch on something that all of these Western institutions, I call them Western institutions, the New World, the Old World Order, the IMF, the World Bank, the International Court of Justice. These really exist to serve the interests of the old colonial powers. They don't serve the interests of the global South. And that was, you saw that in what the Iranian ambassador at the UN said 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, after the assassination of Hodnia. He said, "Look, you've got all this power here. You claim you follow all these. You've got these international rules-based orders. Great, but you don't apply them. Here you've got Israel clearly violating the law, and you don't do anything. So we're asking you, enforce your sanctions, do something. But if you won't, we will take care of ourselves and we will defend ourselves. It's your choice. Either you do something and you punish and you take action, and then we'll go along and we'll help keep the peace. But if you don't do that, we're going to do what we have to do to protect ourselves." I mean, this is basic. Like, if the police refuse to come into your neighborhood and take out the gangs that are controlling the streets, then you have to grab your own gun and go deal with it. That's really that's sort of the choice of what's being presented, and nobody wants to be the vigilante. You look for some order. So I think what we will see in the coming years, the emergence of an alternative to even the United Nations. I think the United Nations will ultimately, be disbanded. They'll come up with something new that's not going to be based in New York City. It's not going to be under the thumb of the Americans. I don't know if it'll be in China. It could be in Africa. It's going to be someplace other than the United States, because the day and age of the United States getting to call the shots, it's going to come to an end. and the Western elite, they still don't believe that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I maintain it is.
And I believe exactly what you're saying, because if you look at the situation with the United States, NATO vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine, it seems like these people are out of their minds. It seems like that they have no rational planning, and they're just standing on, we used to be a great power. We used to be the
Yeah,
most influential power. We used to be the richest power. It seems like they're kicking and screaming like a spoiled little child, that the world is moving on past them, and so they're willing to just set the world ablaze to try to maintain some semblance of power and influence. What do you say about that, especially vis-a-vis the Iranian conflict?
yeah. No, I mean the United States is. Well, we've lost our mojo. Is about the best way I can describe it. Um, I'm going to do an interview with Ambassador Chaz Friedman,
Mm-hmm.
later this week, helping out Danny Davis on his show.
Mm-hmm.
And when I compare men like Freeman to the current clowns that run State Department, I mean seriously, it's you, you know it's like comparing Michael Jordan to some middle schooler who's a terrible basketball player. Okay, it's that kind of difference. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the United States is not awakened to the fact that uh, our methods aren't working. We think we can fight our way out, bully our way out, coerce our way out. Uh, one of the things to think about is our use of sanctions have, in fact, probably created part of the flood of immigrants, illegal immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
because economic conditions, say in Venezuela, are so bad. Yeah, that's one reason driving a lot of Venezuelans trying to come to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll say, oh, it's their government that's bad, but man, we're the ones imposing the economic pain.
Mm-hmm. I read there at any particular time the United States had at least one third of the planet under sanctions, which is absolutely insane to have
Yeah,
one third of the nations under sanctions at any given time. That, to me, that is putting the bullet in the gun that you're going to place to your temple and see if it comes out. I mean, it's Russian roulette,
yeah,
because you're
yeah,
you're building a dissatisfied union of states that want to get rid of your dollar at all costs, because they have been on the opposite end of dollar domination, and they see that it interferes with their domestic policies, their foreign policies, and it is trying to unseat duly elected governments. So isn't that shooting yourself in the head? I mean, I'm not the smartest guy, but isn't that shooting yourself in the head?
oh man, big time. Well, show me the evidence the sanctions work. And what I mean by work, that the goal of these sanctions has been to either get a government to change its policy or to get the government itself to change, to put in a new government. Give me an example where our economic sanctions brought about the change in policy in the direction we want it to go, or brought about a change in government. We tried those sanctions against the Japanese leading up, which resulted in World War II, at least the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. We've been imposing those sanctions on Cuba so 64 years now, almost. Yeah, and all
Mm,
it's done is impoverish the Cuban economy. It hasn't changed their policy at all. They still view America as a bully.
mm,
They like American people, but the government is an imperialist pig as far as they're
mm.
concerned, and there's something to be said for that argument.
We know
So
time.
it is. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was
No, go
saying I was
ahead.
I was trying to keep it in the time constraints. I didn't want to go with my time constraints. I have to ask you, Larry, about
Yeah,
this situation in Russia with the attack on the nuclear power plant, and the constant provocations, even while suffering massive losses on the side of the West. Where is this taking us? Because Russia can only allow this to go on so long, and Vladimir Putin has a domestic audience that he has to play to also.
yeah. Dead man walking. That's what we're witnessing. Ukraine is a dead man walking. They're lashing out uh, this attack into Kursk. Um, it's borders Ukraine. Their objective was to go seize the nuclear power plant, or at least get fire control over the nuclear power plant, hold it hostage, and then force the Russians to negotiate on giving Ukraine back the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. And if you look at a map, uh, you go up on just cross the border so you got Ukraine up here, and then right above here is Kursk, sits right above here.
Mm-hmm.
If you drop straight down is Zaporizhia,
Mm-hmm.
about 300 miles to the south, I think. The Russians controlled Zaporizhia since February 24th of 2022. They captured it as part of that initial special military operation. So I guess NATO and Zelensky came up with this plan that one, they would try to get control of the Kursk nuclear power plant in order to have bargaining leverage with the Russians. Well, that didn't work out. They went in with they pulled some of the about 3,000 troops from the Donbass, set them up there. These are some of their better troops, and they've just been slaughtered. They've been massacred. They've got more than 50% casualties, easy. They've lost tanks. They've lost armored personnel vehicles. It's awful, and it's not like they went in with a large enough force that they could take territory and then hold it. Because it's one thing to capture. Uh, it's like what happens when a hostage taker grabs 600 people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and there's 10 of you. You got 600 people. Good luck with that. Because number one, that means they're going to have to sleep. When do you get to sleep? You got to watch those 600 people all the time. And hey, they need to go to the bathroom. You're going to take them to so you got to think it through. If you're going to control territory, you got to have enough people so that you can operate 24/7. And that means part of operating 24/7 is you can get some sleep here and there. Hey, the Ukrainians didn't go. They didn't go with enough force to sustain themselves, and the Russians reacted very quickly. They were destroying the Ukrainians in mass within 24 hours, and it continues. So all this is done is really angered the Russians, and Putin was just saying basically, now, in light of this, there's not going to be any negotiations. The only negotiation is going to be how Ukraine surrenders. That'll be the negotiation.
Well, and last question: do you believe that the West has? We know that the West did, but do you believe that the West had something to do with this? And how long
Yeah.
can Vladimir Putin sustain his patience dealing with belligerent nations like this?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. The United States and NATO were involved with helping plan this. I believe that. That's why you saw this attack on Zaporizhia as well. This is part of a broader strategy. That's why I called it going nuclear. But in going nuclear, Ukraine really is setting itself on fire. It's not advancing its cause; it's weakening its cause. So, the United States doesn't. The United States is still convinced that its plan that we're going to destroy Russia is working, and it's only going to be when they finally wake up and realize, oh my God, we lost. We just lost, and there's nothing we can do about it. It'll be a little bit like watching the World Trade Centers fall down. It, on early in the morning of 9/11, 2001, nobody could ever believe those towers would come down, and then after, once they were hit and you watched, all of a sudden it just crumbles. That's what's going to happen to Ukraine. Ukraine right now is in a situation like those towers with smoke pouring out of it and fire and flame. And you just reach a point of weakness that it collapses.
Well, when would when would that patience wear out with Vladimir Putin with the constant provocations. That's the main
Well,
part.
no, he's not. Well, he is. He's not sitting idle doing nothing. You know, they continue to build up the size of the Russian military. They're continuing to press forward on combat operations in the Donbass, where Ukrainians are falling back 2 to 5 kilometers a day. So I mean, there's real significant progress is being made by Russia, and it's just they're pushing and pushing and pushing. They're not rushing emotionally to put soldiers unnecessarily at risk. They're just they're following a strategy that it's ultimately going to defeat Ukraine. It's just not defeating it according to the West timetable, like we like to see it done.
Mhm.
But we're not running the show; they are.
Mhm. Larry, man, thank you again for giving me your time. I just had to get these answers from you, man. I hit you up immediately when I hit you up. Always you come through for me. Thank you, Larry.
Oh, you're a good friend, and I appreciate the invite always, Rashid.
All right, be safe. I'll hit you up later. Thank you.
All right, brother. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye. Everybody, listen, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth anywhere on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Like, subscribe, and comment. And do me one more favor, share. Also, please, we're trying to get at least 10 more members over on the locals, the empowerment of truth.locals.com, the empowerment of truth.locals.com. When we get 10 more subscribers over there, we'll be doing live streams over there on a weekly basis. On that note, go to all of the platforms, subscribe. Know that I love each and every one of you if you love truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. And remember to do right by others, not because people are watching, but because it's the right thing to do. That's what my mama taught me. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Thank you, everybody. We're out of here. Deuces. Peace.